In 2018, an underqualified crew could not recover from an emergency situation. The plane impacted the ground, killing all 71 people on board. In 2011, a navigator under influence of alcohol commanded the plane's landing in bad weather conditions. 47 of 52 people on board died in the crash. In 2006, a captain accidentally sped up the plane during the landing rollout. The plane overran the runway, hit the garages, broke into pieces, and caught fire, killing 125 of 203 people on board. Should people avoid flying Russian airlines out of safety concerns? Or is it just me being oversensitive because I'm a Russian and the granddaughter of a pilot? This video is about a formula that is meant to help you overcome your biases when you are writing about challenges in your community. The formula is meant to get you as close to the truth as possible. So the goal of our feature story is to get to the truth of whether Russian airlines are as safe as they should be. We can start our research for this feature story by placing Russian aviation into context. For example, we can compare Russia to the United States. After going to Google Scholar to search for Russian aviation accident statistics, I found about this book by 3 Russian aviation experts. The book includes some statistics for the commercial civil aviation between the years 2007 and 2018. For example, the book states that the relative number of disasters in the United States was 0.099, while in Russia the number was 0.259. The number of deaths per 1 million passengers transported in the United States was 0.044, while in Russia the number was 0.870. One more statistic that is available in the same paragraph is the average annual relative number of accidents per 100,000 flight hours. In the United States, it was at 0.324, while in Russia the number was 0.538. However, one might say that Russia and the United States are too different as countries. Let's look for a country that is more like Russia. This is where other meanings of context become important. The context includes not only current but historical background too. This master's thesis by Kylan Dempsey, to which I had only partial access, states that history of Russian airlines during the Soviet Union still influences airline safety now. So, I should be looking for a relatively large country with vast areas that are difficult to reach by land. I'm also looking for a country that is relatively poor and has a history of authoritarian rule. I'm looking at you, Brazil. In this article about Brazilian pilots, I found yet another way to index the rate of accidents, but this is not very useful because my statistics for Russia has different indicators. But I also have another scholarly article that mentions several countries, including both Russia and Brazil. The article is written by Arnold Barnett. In this article, Professor Barnett calculated the likelihood of a passenger dying in an aviation accident. Professor Barnett calculates a full crash equivalent for developing world regions, which include Russia and Brazil, based on data between years 2000 and 2007. For the life of me, I do not get how a full crash equivalent is calculated, so I'm going to ask Professor Barnett for a clarification when I interview him. Anyhow, the expected full crash equivalent for Brazil is 4.09, while the actual number is 4.73. For Russia, the expected full crash equivalent is at 2.02, while the actual number is 3.73. So, if I understand it correctly, the Russian commercial passenger aviation is safer than Brazil's, but not as safe as it is expected to be. Let's pause here for a bit because I've just realized that I know the names of several possible sources to interview for this feature story. More specifically, I can contact one of the Russian experts who wrote this book where I found the US and Russian statistics. I can also ask Professor Barnett to clarify the calculation of the full crash equivalent. I have other questions to ask him too. Kylan Dempsey seems to specialize in analyzing aviation accidents one by one, while my other two potential sources seem to be using statistics to analyze all the available data. In our formula, we call our sources voices. The formula teaches us that we must have a diversity of voices. To get to the truth, we must seek the perspectives of people representing diversity in gender, age, class, ethnicity, and the region where they live. As of now, on my list of sources, I have male academics from the US and Russia. Kylan Dempsey is a writer based in the United States. I must seek more sources inside Russia. As much as possible, my list should include women, ethnic minorities, sources who are experienced, and sources who are just starting in the aviation industry, sources from large cities, and sources from less developed areas. The next element in our formula is called complexity. Complexity reminds us that every challenge faced by our society has several causes and therefore needs several solutions. Professor Barnett mentions financial resources as a factor contributing to the aviation safety. Professor Barnett also mentions national culture as a determinant of aviation safety. But to learn more about the culture of aviation safety in Russia, I will talk to Kylan Dempsey. Kylan Dempsey's master's thesis also hints at the possible negative effects of sanctions on Russia when it comes to quality control and access to technology. Finally, one more important element of the formula is proportionality. In simple terms, to make sure that our feature story reflects the truth, we take a factor that contributes to the situation and devote exactly the amount of space and attention this factor deserves. This means that we do not devote too much attention to a factor only because it is sensational. Also, we do not place such a factor early in the story. This is because first, we must cover more influential factors. For example, human factors are likely to feature very prominently in any story about aviation safety. And a database I assembled a couple of years ago contains 7 accidents where substance use was a contributing factor. But substance use by pilots, if it will be in our story, is going to be closer to the end of the section devoted to human factors, unless our experts tell us otherwise. And this brings us to the end of this video. If you would like to learn more about the formula, please aim to find a textbook titled Cross-Cultural Journalism and Strategic Communication. I co-authored a chapter in this textbook. You will notice that the textbook describes the formula a bit differently. In my video, I use my favorite version of the formula. To recap, in this video, we learned about a formula that can help us get to the truth about a challenge facing our community. To get to the truth, we must make sure that our feature story provides current and historical background of the challenge. Our sources should represent our community in their diversity, which includes but is not limited to age, gender, race and ethnicity, geography and class. We should also demonstrate complexity, meaning that every issue has more than one cause or influence. At the same time, those influences should be covered in the feature story according to their contribution to the issue. None of the contributing factors should be blown out of proportion. This video was created by me, Yulia Medvedeva. If you like this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching.